I still remember the exact moment everything started to fall apart. My manager had barely walked into the office when an email landed in my inbox with the subject line, "Urgent, explain this immediately." Before I could even open it, I noticed half the department glancing in my direction. Some looked curious. Others looked disappointed. A few wouldn't even make eye contact. The email accused me of submitting the wrong pricing model to one of our biggest clients, a mistake that supposedly delayed a contract worth hundreds of thousands of dollars. There was just one problem. I hadn't submitted that file. I stared at the attachment for several seconds. It had my name on it. My initials were in the document history. According to every record the company could see, I was responsible. But I knew that wasn't the file I'd finished the night before. At the time, I had no idea that this was only the beginning. I'd been working at Ashford Consulting for almost 5 years. It wasn't a glamorous company, but it was stable. We specialized in helping mid-sized businesses improve their operations, and most of my work involved preparing financial models, client presentations, and project reports. It wasn't exciting work, but I liked solving problems. I liked knowing that clients trusted our recommendations because I checked every number twice. Around the office, people usually described me with one word: reliable. I wasn't the loudest person in meetings, and I definitely wasn't the one chasing office politics. If someone needed a deadline rescued or a spreadsheet fixed at the last minute, my phone usually rang first. That reputation had taken years to build. I had no idea how quickly it could disappear. When I walked into my manager Daniel's office, he didn't even ask me to sit down. "What happened?" he asked, sliding the printed report across his desk. I flipped through the pages. The revenue projections were wrong. The client assumptions were outdated. Entire sections had been replaced with numbers I'd never approved. "I didn't send this version," I said quietly. Daniel leaned back with folded arms. "Your login did." I looked up. "I saved the final report around 7:30 last night." "This isn't it." He sighed the way exhausted managers do when they think they're hearing another excuse. "Alex, this is the 3rd issue in 6 weeks." "Third?" I blinked. "What do you mean 3rd?" He opened another folder. There were 2 previous project summaries, both showing calculation errors that had somehow escaped review. I recognized the projects. I didn't recognize the mistakes. "I checked these," I said. "I know I checked these." Daniel rubbed his forehead. "I've defended you every time. But I can't keep telling senior leadership they're wrong when every system log points back to your account." I left his office with the report in my hands and something much heavier sitting in my chest. For the first time in my career, I wondered if everyone else was seeing something I wasn't. The atmosphere around me changed almost overnight. Coworkers who normally stopped by my desk for coffee now walked past without saying much. Conversations ended when I entered the break room. Invitations to brainstorming sessions suddenly disappeared from my calendar. Nobody accused me directly. They didn't have to. Offices have a way of spreading doubt without anyone saying a word. One afternoon, I overheard 2 analysts talking near the printer. "I heard he's slipping." "Yeah, apparently management's documenting everything now." They lowered their voices as soon as they noticed me. I pretended not to hear them. But I heard every word. Over the next week, I became obsessed with checking my own work. Every spreadsheet. Every email. Every attachment. I reread formulas until my eyes hurt. Before leaving each evening, I saved copies of my reports on my encrypted company archive, convinced that maybe I really had become careless. But every copy I kept matched perfectly. The versions management received somehow didn't. It didn't make sense. Either I was losing my memory, or something was happening after I logged off. I hated even thinking it. It sounded paranoid. The breakthrough came on a rainy Thursday. Most of the office had already gone home. The cleaning crew was vacuuming the hallway while I sat alone under the glow of my monitor, comparing timestamps on an old project folder. Normally, I would have gone home hours earlier. That night, something told me to keep digging. I opened the document history on one of the reports Daniel had shown me. The company software tracked every revision automatically. At first glance, everything looked normal. Then I noticed something strange. The final edit had been made nearly 40 minutes after I'd badged out of the building. I checked another file. Same pattern. Another one. Again. Every mistake that had damaged my reputation appeared after I'd already left for the night. A chill ran through me. Someone wasn't waiting for me to make mistakes. Someone was creating them. Before I could process what I'd found, my phone vibrated. It was an email from Daniel. Conference room. First thing tomorrow morning. Another client escalation. I closed my laptop slowly. Whoever was doing this hadn't finished. And somehow, I knew tomorrow was going to be worse. I barely slept that night. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw the document history on my screen. Those timestamps kept replaying in my head. They proved I hadn't imagined anything, but they weren't enough to convince anyone. All they showed was that files had been edited after I'd left the office. They didn't show who had made the changes. Whoever was doing this knew exactly how to stay invisible. The conference room was unusually quiet the next morning. Daniel sat at the end of the table with his laptop open. Beside him was Melissa from Human Resources, which immediately made my stomach tighten. HR didn't attend routine project meetings. Something bigger was happening. Daniel looked exhausted. Our client from Brookstone Manufacturing found another reporting error this morning, he said. They've asked for a formal review of every document you've handled during the last 2 months. I felt every pair of eyes settle on me. I didn't make those changes. Melissa spoke calmly. We're not making conclusions today. We just need to understand what's happening. I wanted to tell them about the timestamps. Instead, I stopped myself. If someone inside the company was deliberately setting me up, revealing what I'd found too early would only warn them. So I simply nodded. I'll cooperate with whatever review you need. Daniel looked surprised. For the first time in weeks, I wasn't trying to defend myself. I was buying time. That afternoon, I requested access to several archive project folders. Nobody questioned the request. After all, everyone assumed I was trying to understand my own mistakes. Instead, I was looking for patterns. I built a spreadsheet listing every project I'd supposedly mishandled. Date. Time. Client. Version history. People with access. At first, nothing stood out. Then one name kept appearing. Emily Carter. Senior Project Analyst. She wasn't assigned to every project. But somehow, she had accessed every single file that later became a problem. I leaned back in my chair. Emily had worked at Ashford almost 8 years. She was respected, confident, and always seemed one step ahead of everyone else. She'd also been competing for the same upcoming management position I wanted. Still, that wasn't evidence. It was only coincidence. Or at least, I hoped it was. A few days later, coincidence became harder to believe. I was grabbing coffee when Jacob from IT sat beside me. Jacob loved talking. Most people avoided him because conversations with him could last half an hour. That morning, I was grateful for it. "You know what's weird?" he said while stirring his coffee. "What?" "Someone keeps requesting temporary access permissions after business hours." I tried to sound casual. "For maintenance." He shrugged. "Usually, yeah. But lately it's always the same employee requesting short admin sessions." My heartbeat sped up. "Who?" Jacob frowned. "I probably shouldn't say." He laughed awkwardly before changing the subject. "Normally I would have let it go. This time, I couldn't." That evening, I stayed late again. Instead of reviewing reports, I searched archived email folders connected to several completed projects. Most people never looked there. Old email chains were digital graveyards. Thousands of forgotten conversations. Hours passed. Nothing. Then, I found an archived thread from nearly 3 months earlier. The subject line was ordinary. Project Falcon, revision notes. I almost skipped it. Until I noticed something strange. The email had been forwarded several times. One recipient had been removed from the visible conversation. But the archive still preserved part of the original routing information. Curious, I opened the message. The first few emails were completely normal. Discussion about client deadlines. Spreadsheet revisions. Presentation updates. Then I reached a reply that had never appeared in anyone else's mailbox. Emily had accidentally replied before removing an internal address. The message was short. Painfully short. "Don't worry. If Alex keeps signing off on the reports first, it'll always point back to him." I stopped breathing. I read it again. Then again. There was no misunderstanding. No missing context. Someone had written that sentence. Someone inside my company had planned this. My hands actually shook as I continued reading. Another response appeared underneath. "Just make sure the edits happen after he leaves." A third reply. "Management already thinks he's becoming careless." Months. This had been happening for months. Every mistake. Every awkward conversation. Every disappointed look. Every rumor spreading through the office. None of it had been random. Someone had been quietly destroying my reputation one project at a time. I copied the entire email chain into a secure evidence folder. Then I made 3 encrypted backups. One on my company archive. One on an external drive. One in my personal encrypted cloud storage. If these emails disappeared tomorrow, I'd still have them. Looking back, that was probably the smartest decision I made. Because less than an hour later, the archived email thread vanished from the company server. I refreshed the page. Nothing. It was gone. Someone already knew I was getting close. Then my office phone rang. I answered. No one spoke. After several silent seconds, the line disconnected. I slowly looked through the glass wall of my office. Across the floor, Emily was standing beside the elevators. She wasn't talking to anyone. She wasn't holding her phone anymore. She was just looking directly at me. And for the first time, she smiled. That smile stayed with me all night. It wasn't nervous. It wasn't forced. It was the smile of someone who believed they had already won. For weeks, I'd been reacting to every accusation, trying to prove my innocence one conversation at a time. Emily expected me to confront her, lose my temper, or make a mistake out of frustration. Instead, I did nothing. At least, that's what everyone thought. The next morning, Daniel called an emergency leadership meeting. Representatives from finance, HR, IT, legal, and our executive team gathered in the largest conference room. The Brookstone account was too valuable to ignore, and senior management wanted answers before the client decided to terminate the contract. As I walked into the room, I noticed Emily sitting comfortably with a notebook open. She looked completely relaxed. When our eyes met, she gave me a polite nod. Like none of this had anything to do with her. Daniel cleared his throat. We're here to determine how repeated reporting errors occurred across multiple client projects. He looked at me. Alex, before we begin, is there anything you'd like to say? Every person in the room turned toward me. I stood slowly. Yes. Then I placed a small external drive on the conference table. I'd like everyone to wait until they've seen everything. The IT director connected the drive to the conference room display. One by one, I opened the evidence. First came the timeline. Every project. Every document. Every revision. Every badge swipe showing exactly when I'd left the building. Then I displayed the document histories. Each critical edit occurred after my access card had already recorded me leaving for the night. The room became noticeably quieter. The legal director leaned forward. Can these timestamps be verified? Jacob from IT answered before anyone else could. They're generated automatically by the server. Employees can't alter them. Emily shifted slightly in her chair. It was the first crack in her confidence. Then I opened the archived email chain. The room stayed silent as everyone read the messages on the screen. No dramatic music. No shouting. Just silence. Sometimes silence is louder than any argument. Daniel looked from the screen to Emily. Is this real? Emily hesitated. It looks incomplete. I clicked another folder. I thought you might say that. 3 identical backup copies appeared. Each had a different creation time. One from the company archive. One from my encrypted drive. One from my personal cloud backup. All identical. Legal compared the files. They match perfectly. Emily's face lost its color. She tried one final defense. I only meant we should review Alex's work more carefully. Those emails are being taken out of context. I nodded. I expected that explanation too. Then I opened the final file. An IT security log. Jacob had quietly helped verify it after I showed him the disappearing email. The log recorded every temporary administrative session requested after business hours. Every single one. The username attached to those requests belonged to Emily. The timestamps matched every document that had been altered. Every project. Every change. Every accusation. Every attempt to destroy my credibility. The room went completely still. Daniel slowly removed his glasses. Emily. She opened her mouth. Nothing came out. There wasn't anything left to say. The investigation moved quickly after that. Legal recovered additional server logs. HR interviewed employees who admitted Emily had encouraged rumors about my declining performance. Several coworkers remembered being asked not to mention seeing her working late. The pattern became impossible to ignore. Emily hadn't sabotaged me because she hated me. She'd sabotaged me because she was terrified. Our department was restructuring, and only one management position would be available. She believed that if my reputation collapsed, hers would naturally rise. Instead, every decision she'd made led directly back to her. Within 2 weeks, Emily was terminated for misconduct, evidence tampering, and violating company security policies. The company disclosed the outcome internally but kept personal details confidential. Brookstone accepted our explanation after reviewing the investigation and renewed their contract. Daniel met me privately a few days later. "I owe you an apology." I shook my head. "You trusted the evidence you had." He sighed. "I should have looked deeper. Maybe. But I also should have protected my own work sooner." Neither of us had been completely right. 6 months later, I accepted the management position we'd both wanted. The promotion felt good. But surprisingly, it wasn't the best part. The best part was walking into work each morning without feeling like I had to look over my shoulder. Looking back, I learned something that no training course ever teaches. Your reputation takes years to build. Only minutes to damage. And sometimes, the most important thing you can protect isn't your career. It's the truth.